Syndicated presents Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian.
What is up? So glad you could join us. It's been a while. Hope you all had a wonderful Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody. And Shep, I hope that the bowl game went well for you and the company. That's always a fun thing. I was sad I couldn't get down there. That was always a tradition, first with my brothers and then with my son. But first and foremost, I hope you had a great holiday season.
Yeah, you too, buddy. I know the whole family was there, so that makes it extra special. And thanks for the best wishes. It's always good to have a good bowl game. Toledo, Pittsburgh, outstanding game. Two really good men, but two really good coaches. Detroit did itself proud. Turned out 26,000 plus. So a lot of good media vibes there. Appreciate it, and I'm glad if anybody went down there. Hope they enjoyed themselves. So it's a nice holiday. It just goes by so fast. You know what I mean?
It's unbelievable. It really is. And, obviously, Shep, it's not done. I love the fact that we're having college football until January 20th. I'm not going to lie, because that only means, not that I counted or anything, we have 215 days until the new season started. But I would be remiss, not that I'm counting or anything, I would be remiss, Shep, if we didn't talk about that, which we've seen. I love bowl season. Bowl season's never going to go away. Contrary to what people say, you're still going to have fantastic people out there like Game Above that are going to sponsor these bowl games, and therefore bowl season is never going to go away.
Shouldn't. It shouldn't.
No.
Just because you've got more college football playoff games doesn't mean that the other bowl games can't be entertaining, can't be profitable for cities, can't be important to teams. Okay. Not everybody's going to be able to play for a national championship. It's still important for other programs, whether they be mid-major or Power Four conferences, to at least have the opportunity to keep practicing and keep playing. So as far as I'm concerned, I know people get tired of it. I know they don't remember a lot of the bowl games. I know they feel like there's some teams in there who don't deserve to be in there. I think it's really important. I think coaches will all echo the same thing. I'm glad that there's that many.
What's your take so far on this brand new college football playoff? I love these people that have already made their decision that this stinks and it's awful and it's terrible. And look, the games have been bad. Let's get that out of the way.
Some of them have.
We've had one good game, legitimately. And it was a great game yesterday between Texas and Arizona State.
Right.
They've been bad games, but Shep, I refuse to say that this 1 year is a sign of things to come. And oh, by the way, we still have a hell of a lot of football left to be played as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's that, Sean. I like your take on whether or not you feel like anything's been decided. People have said, let's make sure it's a 14-team season. I don't know what that solves. I don't know what the 12-team college football playoff solves, to be honest with you. I know this. Ohio State at 13-2, they've got at least one more game and perhaps two. That gives them 17 games, just like an NFL season, which I think is crazy. And it's really 19 weeks because they get 2 bye weeks, right? So it's absolutely nuts how much the expectation is of these kids. We get selfish. I do. I could watch football every single weekend, round the clock, good football, whether it be good college football or the NFL. But Sean, I mean, that's a lot of time to be spending there. I don't know if people feel like what's the argument for Southgate? These were the 3 teams. Tell me if I'm wrong here. Indiana, SMU, right? They don't belong there. People were worried about Boise. People didn't like Arizona State. Okay. Oh, you shouldn't give it to it. So if you're wondering about those teams, SMU, Boise State, Indiana, they don't belong there. Tell me who deserves to be in there and why the Alabama, South Carolina, and Ole Miss is more deserving. And would they have fared better? Oh, they would have played for more. Alabama had a lot of guys playing, dude. Okay. You don't think they wanted to beat up Michigan a little bit? And they were embarrassed. Michigan was more physical. Their offense isn't very good, but it's incredible to me. I just don't know what it's solving right now. And I'd like to know how we get to the point where too many is too many and enough is enough.
And try to make the case for those teams that you just mentioned without mentioning 3 letters. SEC.
Right. 100%.
Seriously, make the case without mentioning those 3 letters. Can I just say this? Jalen Milroe's awful, and these people talking about him as a pro prospect are on crack. And I'm just going to leave that at that, and we'll all move on with our day. That's not taking anything away from Michigan's win, by the way. Okay?
100%.
Shep, these people talking about him as a pro prospect, honestly, my jaw drops. I have no other way to say that.
Okay, let's go beyond that. Last night, and he was really good, right? Will Howard was fantastic. Over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Besides not being led on the podium to celebrate the championship or the Rose Bowl win, I don't know. Is he? They were talking like he's going to be an NFL quarterback. Is he an NFL quarterback to you? Okay, all right. Shedeur Sanders he might be a quarterback in the NFL. Is he a top 5 pick like they're talking?
And it's going to happen. You know it is. Set your watch to it. Like, honestly,
absolutely.
It is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. No matter what you need, forget about need. Is there a quarterback coming out in this draft that you would take in the top 10? Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, any of them. Is there a quarterback you'd take in the top 10?
No.
Me either.
There isn't one guy that stands out to me. I like Cam Ward, but I'm not crazy about him. Does that make sense?
You wouldn't trade up for him.
No.
Right.
No. But Alan, I would like to formally issue an apology to Wink Martindale. Shep, you and I talked about this a couple months ago. The much maligned Wink Martindale, I think really starting in the second half of that Indiana game, you want to talk about a guy that did a character arc. I mean, he went from the arch villain to arguably one of the heroes of this season. I mean, in the way they battened down the hatches down the stretch, full marks for the way they got things turned around on the defensive side of the ball.
No question. Last 4 games in the second half, they have allowed 6 points. A field goal to Indiana and a field goal to Alabama. That's adjustments, man. That is something else. And he's done it, Sean, without Will Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And in this, obviously, the last game, think about who he was missing. Kenneth Grant, of course, Mason Graham. I mean, Michigan was missing, you could argue, their top 10 players. They're playing with a true freshman who's a mountain of a kid at right tackle, right? They're playing with names on the defensive side of the ball that you're not totally familiar with. And they're beating Alabama that way. To me, one of the more impressive wins of any team this year because it was a neutral site. Yeah,
I agree with you. Couple comments from people. Let's go. Working with Shep, long way from 96-1, greatest day ever. Boy, great memory there. Way to go. I think teams like the Giants and Raiders are going to regret not drafting a quarterback this past draft. They're going to feel like they have to. You're absolutely right.
Sean, that's why you and I have had conversations in the past. Don't draft for need.
Mm-hmm.
If you draft for the best player, I don't care what team you're talking about or what sport, you have to draft the best player. If you're going to draft for need, that means a team like the Raiders, like the Giants, a really good example by Allen, they're going to draft a quarterback. The Giants sitting at number 4, you're telling me they're going to reach for Shedeur Sanders instead of something else that they could use for that team and they have plenty of needs? To me, that's short-sighted. I'm not saying they're going to, but that would be short-sighted.
Scalzo agrees with us, Brian Scalzo, not over a potential free agent in regards to those quarterbacks. No, I'm with you. I mean, with some of the free agents out there, I mean, think about it. Sam Darnold, you want to talk about a reclamation project, right? Sam Darnold coming off the year he's had with the Minnesota Vikings, because Lord knows there's going to be a hard decision made.
Yeah.
Or one of these rookie quarterbacks coming out this year. Who are you handing the keys of the franchise to?
100%. And we've talked a little bit about this in the past. Not that we're sold on Sam Darnold.
No.
But this is why sometimes you have to wonder how long is long enough. What do you use to judge somebody? Is it Kevin O'Connell? Is it Justin Jefferson? Is it the winning program that Minnesota is experiencing right now? Could it be all the above? Don't tell me that Justin Jefferson has made Sam Darnold when Sam Darnold has helped Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson and Justin Jefferson. You can help one another. It's like our show. We help one another. Football is the ultimate team sport, man. you are helping. Don't tell me that Calvin Johnson made Matthew Stafford because they helped one another. I had dinner with Calvin at the Game Above Bowl team dinner a couple nights before the bowl game, and he said the exact same thing. It was fascinating. He's like, look, we helped one another. He made me better. I made him better. Why can't it be both? It is. Yeah. It's possible. I'd take Sam Darnold over all those guys. But on the other hand, Sean, I'm sure there's teams in the past that said, I'd rather have Derek Carr than a quarterback coming out in the draft. You just don't know, right? Mm-hmm. You got to have some talent around him.
No doubt. Morning, guys, from Tom up in London, my buddy up in London. Hello, Tom. Bill, good morning, fellas. Right back to you. Will the Vikings franchise tag Darnold? I mean, listen.
I would.
It's a huge decision, Shep. This is a huge decision coming up. I mean, look, J.J. McCarthy is the quarterback of the future, and I think J.J. McCarthy is going to have a good career. I'm not one of those guys. I don't see it. You weren't paying attention if you didn't watch him at Michigan, okay? And I know there was a lot of that stuff out there. I'm not saying that he's going to be a Pro Bowler. I'm not saying that he's even going to lead the Vikings to the type of season that Sam Darnold just did. But make no mistake about it. They've already invested that money. They are going to hand that kid the keys to this franchise sooner rather than later. So, Shep, it begs the question, as Bill brought up, well, what do you do with Sam Darnold at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably franchise him, but why can't they do what Green Bay did with Jordan Love and let J.J. McCarthy sit for a little bit and let him learn? Or what San Francisco did with Brock Purdy to a certain extent. I mean, I know it's different because one's a first-round pick and the other one is Mr. Irrelevant, but I think there has to be some patience there. And if you think that J.J. McCarthy would have been able to do what Sam Darnold did this year or can come in and duplicate what Sam Darnold did this year, then it might make it a little easier. I don't have that crystal ball. People in Minnesota are probably better suited to answer that question than I would. But I think it's a good predicament to be in. But I would franchise him unless, depending on how many years he wants. And then you have to make the decision, not just that, but are you going to trade a guy like J.J. McCarthy? If you think Sam Darnold, you can be your guy for the next 4 years, let's just say, 4 or 5 years, then you could trade J.J. McCarthy and get some pretty good capital considering the quarterback class coming out, right?
You know, and Bill brought that up as well. If you had somebody give him in the neighborhood of where he was selected, you know as well as I do, you're not going to get that though. You know, so are you going to give up a guy that you take up at 10? Well, we'll offer you a second round pick. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, guys, it's that capital that you were talking about. People take that shit way too seriously. Hey, if you're ready
first quarter in the jar.
Yeah, there it is. It's early in the year. Hey, if you're ready to take charge of your financial future, maybe you're throwing quarters into the swear jar, look no further than the guys at the Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northville, owned by the Handsome Brothers right there. That's Mike Husak and Jeff Husak with over 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. And that's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, already in retirement, these guys can and will help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life, and they have clients in over 20 different states. Look, the investment world is a complex one. That's why, for me, I hire smart guys like those guys. And if you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, it's time to work with the experts. Reach out to my friends at the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574 or visit their website at www.thewealthadv.com. Shep, I can't tell you how excited I am for this Sunday night. Seriously, this is awesome. These are the things that we've dreamed about. And I know some fans, we're so banged up and this, that, and the other. Man, this is stuff that we've dreamed about. I'm embracing the moment. I'm glad that Dan Campbell's embracing the moment. Look, I've been a guy all year. I'm not taking anything away from Minnesota. You are what your record indicates in the National Football League. I'm a firm believer in that. I think the Vikings have themselves one hell of a coach. Quite frankly, not enough is being said about that. And that's not taking anything away from what Sam Darnold has done. But, Shep, I embrace this moment. This is arguably the biggest regular season game in Detroit Lions history. This is
100%.
Fantastic.
100%. I would argue, and I'm glad you brought that up with Kevin O'Connell. I think Dan Campbell, Andy Reid I said Mike Tomlin earlier in the season, but I think those three guys deserve to be in the conversation for Coach of the Year. O'Connell, because of the expectations everybody had going in, right? Outside of the Minnesota locker room, everybody thought this team was going to be on the outside looking in. It was Detroit and Green Bay to battle it out for the top spot. Andy Reid, because they're 15-1, man, and they've got that bullseye on their back for each of the last 2 years. You could make the argument every single game for the last 4 years, and yet somehow they have the best record in football that not enough people are talking about. It's such a luxury for them that he's benching Patrick Mahomes and playing Wentz this coming Sunday against Denver. And then the last thing I would say is Dan Campbell, because of the injuries his team has sustained, and be able to keep them on the track that the way they have played, going 8-0 on the road, I think it's been phenomenal. What is your take on the Monday night game against San Francisco, on people's debate on whether or not he should be playing his starters?
I think you continue on the road that you've been on. To not play your starters is not Dan Campbell, is not what has made the Lions successful. Why would you stop being what you are? You can't stop being. Shep, how many times have people said it in our business? You have to be you. And you and I have worked with people that aren't them. You know what I mean? And I think it's transparent. You see right through it. And I've always been the person, I'm an idiot. Here are all my warts. Take a look at me. But this is still me. And to me, I think you're spitting in the face of your identity if you do something like that. I was 100% all in with the way Dan Campbell handled it.
100%. I'm glad you said that, because my point to people has always been this, and I'm sure you've reiterated this. You get 53 men on a roster, you get 48 dressed on Sunday. You can't sit your starters. And Campbell and Bill Belichick have come out and said the same thing, right? Who are you going to sit, and why are you going to sit them? And then the other thing is, if you're going to take a guy, let's say Taylor Decker, and you're going to say, I'm going to sit you because you need the rest, how does that make the other four offensive linemen feel? I mean, at some point, right? Somebody said to me, I think you should rest Jack Campbell and Brian Branch because of how important they are to the defense and how beat up they are. And I said, do you think 2-year players go into a coach's office and said, I think it'd be a good idea if you rested me this weekend? I mean, how would that look to the rest of the team? I agree 100% with you. You have to be who you are. He did that. The ideal situation, we both know, would have been to jump out to a big lead against San Francisco and then take some of your guys out, right? Like game 3 of perhaps the preseason. That was not the case. Thankfully, they're all healthy. I can't wait for Sunday night. It is going to be so vibrant there at Ford Field. It's going to be off the chain. Awesome.
Let me catch up with some comments. JJ would arguably be the best quarterback coming out of this year's draft. Alan, can I correct you there, my friend? I don't think it's arguable. I think JJ would be the best quarterback. If he was in this draft, Shep, I don't see an argument. I think there's JJ McCarthy and the rest of it. He said, I think you can definitely get a haul for him. Bill said, I thought it couldn't get bigger than Stafford versus the Lions in the playoffs. Yet here we go. I'm going to say regular season. Playoff games are a different beast. So I hope you understand what I'm saying, Bill.
But you might get if the Lions lose, they're the 5 seed. They may get the Rams right out of the gate.
I know, isn't that funny? Can you imagine that? Oh my gosh! Thank you, Tom. Sean has said all season Minnesota is a very good team. Shep, I've been getting killed by all these Minnesota people, and it's like when people are trying to say you were a fraud early in the season. I'm sorry, when you jump out to a 6-1 record or whatever the hell it was, I don't believe in that fraud crap. You know,
I don't either. Yeah.
40 Gumble said the Lions don't have any players that are like, nah, I'm all good. Such is the case with the Niners a few weeks ago with Devondre Campbell. You're right.
Well, yeah, but let me just say 2 things regarding the Niners.
Mm-hmm.
Fred Warner, who I love as a linebacker, played with a broken bone in his ankle.
Yep. Props.
Nick Bosa, you saw the hit, right? Where his neck looked like Go-Go Rock. What was the boxing game that you and I played as a kid? Go-Go Robots. Yeah. Didn't his neck look like that? Oh my God. And he came back in. So I think I give San Francisco a ton of credit. He's right about Devondre Campbell, who walked out. That's the individual. That's not the team. They cut him right away because that's not who they are. The other thing I would say, Bill says, have you guys ever seen a division like the 2024 NFC North before? Yeah. the 2023 AFC North with Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I think the AFC North, historically now, within the last 10 years, been the strongest division. When you've got Pittsburgh vying every year for a playoff spot, and Mike Tomlin's never finished below 500.
Respect.
Baltimore's been a threat, and Cincinnati, since Joe Burrow's been there and when healthy, they've been unbelievable. Yeah, there it is. Thanks, Bill. Thank you. Good job.
I'd catch my brother underneath his jaw.
The blue or the red one?
There for you, bitch. Hey, did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy Partners to get help with their home and auto insurance? Our friends at Legacy are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents, and they provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. My guess is my buddy Dave Peabody at Legacy is still celebrating that Michigan victory over Alabama, and you can celebrate some savings with our friends at Legacy, because Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you, and yes, help save you some money. They did it for my family. They'll do it for you. Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're probably paying too much and you could be underinsured. What are you waiting for? Give Legacy Partners a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Call them today, 586-209-4106, or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quote. I feel I get what you're saying. 14-2 teams in the same division is unprecedented. Yeah, I don't remember it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I wanted to ask you something real quick about What the Puck, because I watched that the other day, and you were talking about Team USA, right? Mm-hmm. And they've been really impressive, right? 5-1 over Canada. I don't care who's playing. Most people have no idea. You do. Most people have no idea or could barely even name a single kid on the Canadian roster or the U.S. roster. But I remember, Sean, it wasn't too long ago when I was traveling with the Lions, and part of our traveling crew, every Saturday night we got in and we would stay in Tim O'Neill's expanded suite because he was the equipment manager. So we had really 2 rooms. And we would watch college football, just a bunch of us. It was great. We'd order pizzas and strombolis and all these different things. And we'd just sit there and talk football. It was awesome. I miss those days. But I remember 2 guys, part of the crew, were from Canada. And they would be always pissed off at the U.S. in a joking way, because they'd say, you guys are great at everything you do. Americans are great at everything they do. And they said, even hockey, you can see how the hockey players in America are getting better and how there's more kids coming to the National Hockey League who are American born and who come from college. I don't know if it's reached the point yet where you would feel comfortable that the U.S. has surpassed Canada, because I don't think that's the case. But give me the gap between Team USA or American hockey and Canadian hockey, because it's getting smaller and smaller in my mind.
Can I go back 20 plus years? There's a couple of things that I need to bring up. Number one, I thought Team USA and USA Hockey, the dumbest thing they could have done was punish a lot of the kids that chose not to go the USHL or the development program. Because, Shep, it's not that long ago. Like,
what do you mean punish? What do you mean punish?
Here, let me explain to you. All right. So if I said I'm going to put an all-star team together, I'm going to put the best of the best together. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the problem with the best of the best, Shep, I'm not going to take the kids that played Catholic school lacrosse. I'm just not going to do it. I'll take all these kids, but I'm not going to take the kids. Well, is it really your best team?
Is it the best? Right. Is
it really your best? And USA Hockey did that for years. They would not take the kids that went and played Major Junior. And it was mind-boggling to me. And then coincidentally, when they finally did it in 2004, you're never going to believe what happened. I mean, you are never going to believe what happened. Team USA won the first gold medal. Like there it is right there, you know? Yeah. So you're right. The other flip side to that, and this is where I give a tip of the cap to USA Hockey for the vision that they had. I was in the OHL when this NTDP thing started to go like this. It had been around for a few years, but it started to go like this. And I'm not joking. The smugness from a lot of the barns that I went into and a lot of the longtime OHL people, what are those crazy Americans doing? Oh my gosh, what a silly, stupid idea. Hey, you know what? what the NTDP has done is unbelievable. And now that has become, Shep, that has become the model for a lot of different places. There's a reason why Switzerland's producing all these players now. There's a reason why Slovenia is producing these players. It's kind of been the model for other places. So in one regard, 20 years ago, I wanted to slap USA Hockey for how stupid it was. And in the other hand, I wanted to pat him on the back. And I think you're seeing the fruits of the labor 20 years later. Sure. Tournament in, tournament out, they can compete with Canada. They can compete with Sweden. They can compete with Finland. And a lot of that comes because of their development program. So I hope that wasn't too long-winded.
It's a great point. I'm glad you said that. And it's right there in Plymouth. If people get an opportunity to go see it, it's really good hockey. I love the fact that their scheduling is just as important.
Oh,
like going and playing college teams is really important for the development. These guys, at 18 years old and younger, they're amazing. They're a lot of fun to watch. But I think it's a really cool thing. I wish. So you said 20 years ago you wanted to slap USA Hockey. I want to do it 20 minutes ago. And I want to do it not USA Hockey, but hockey in general. Because I think it's such a phenomenal sport with really good people, for the most part, really good people who make up the sport. And I just don't think they do a good job of marketing their teams and their league at all. It's awful.
Somebody asked, I want to get your thoughts on Coach McLellan in just a second. I'm sure you remember him as well as I do. But, Chris, I got to get this out there. Speaking of NTDP, former NTDP players, happy 24th birthday to Cole Caulfield. Guys, on fire. Tom said, Matt, what are your thoughts on the new coach for the Wings? I know the roster is still the same. Shep, I'm interested. It had to happen. I think, in my mind, Shep, I don't know if you and I talked about it, the Saturday night game in Montreal was it. That was like, if you watch that game, that was it. It was time to make a move. It wasn't his fault.
Is that the 5-0 or 4-0 game?
The 5-1 game. That was the 5-1 game. And then they turned around and lost to the Blues, and you knew that was it. But Coach McLellan, I'm sure you got to know him a bit back in the day. I got to know him a little bit back in the day. You knew this guy was going to be a coach in the National Hockey League one day 16 years ago. He's done it a few times. Shep, what's your take on the whole process?
I think anytime I compare this, it depends on what you think. And Yzerman in his press conference said he thinks this roster is good enough to make the playoffs. You can disagree with it all you want, but that's the head guy, and that's his expectation. If that is the expectation, then my belief is, do you have the right coach to nurture them along, a guy who has been there, and he has not. Obviously, he was his assistant down in Tampa, but he was not. So it leads me to believe, and I know it's a little different, but remember when Brad Ausmus was brought on for the Tigers, people felt like they were going to win a championship. He didn't have any experience. Why would you bring him in and not a veteran guy? I wondered the same thing prior to this season. Not that you want to see anybody fired, but why is Derek Lalonde there if they're not going to make that next leap? A lot of things had to fall in place, right? Todd McLellan had to be available. Steve Yzerman, obviously, he's been thinking about this for at least 2 weeks, and he said as much. You don't make a switch like that and just say, hey, Todd, how's it going, man? Yeah, listen, I need a new coach. Can you come in? Yes. This had to be a conversation for an extended period of time. Obviously, bringing in Trent Yawney is a really important piece of it, too. I think it's the right move. I thought it took a little longer than I expected. I suppose no timing is right. But I think you notice he's also very different than the last coach. And you see that in coaching at all levels in all sports. You go from a guy who's a pretty reserved, nice guy to a really aggressive guy. And I think it's kind of showing right now. McLellan wants his guys to play. He wants his guys to play a little bit freer. He wants them to get the jump right away. And they have shown that so far. So, look, I get the whole argument you can't fire all the players. You can get the most out of your players, though. And if this guy can't, everybody else knows that, including Steve Yzerman, they're all on a short leash.
Yeah, no, Shep, it really is. This was a bad off season. We talked about that months ago. And, for all the steps that this franchise was taking, I thought it was a bad off season. They haven't developed as much and as nicely. Steve Yzerman said as much. Yeah. They haven't developed as much and as nicely as I think a lot of people thought. A couple guys.
Like with who?
I can tell you with Mo Sider, what Mo Sider is today, and Todd McLellan just talked about this yesterday. What Mo Sider is today, you got it. That's exactly it. He's not bad. Like this is like the Dylan Larkin conversation that I got killed for. I will take Dylan Larkin on my team every day. Do not ask me to call him a 1C. He is not a 1C. Sorry.
I said the same thing. Yep.
I don't know what to tell you. If you want to get mad at me, get mad at me. That's cool, but I'm not going to change. And I look at Mo Sider. I will take Mo Sider on my team. How big of a step has Mo Sider made in 2 years? Right. And Todd McLellan talked about that yesterday. He said, listen, he's got all the tools. We love what we're seeing, but there's a next level there. We can unlock that, and we're going to unlock that. Whereas I would say Mo Sider has gone like this. Lucas Raymond is another guy that, while people thought that these guys would take a step like that, I think that Lucas Raymond went like this. It hasn't jumped as much as you thought. You have to, when you embark on something like this, you have to have guys take exceptional steps. They have to become exceptional players, and you have to see it in real time. And I don't think those guys have. And again,
but they're getting paid like they should.
You got it.
And if you're going to invest that much, and you say I believe in you, then that person has to reward. Sorry, it's part of the deal, right? You have to reward the contract. The reason you got paid as much money at DFN as anybody else is because of your ratings. You had to hit the ratings. Mo Sider's got to be you. Lucas Raymond's got to be you. Simon Edmondson eventually is going to have to be up there too. So if that's what you're talking about regarding development, I agree. I thought you were going to go like Joe Valeno. Joe Valeno was a first-round pick. It was a late first-round pick, but he's still a first-round pick. I think he should be more than a 4-line center.
100%. Sorry. 100%. Couldn't agree with you more. My goodness. All right, let me.
Michael Rasmussen, same thing. He should be more than a third-line guy. And
go ahead.
If they're not, why are they first-round picks?
Well, and how many times have we gone through this bit in the last decade with the Detroit Red Wings? I think the Detroit Red Wings have been in this rut where they ask a number 3 to be a number 2, a number 3, a number 4 to be a number 3, a number 2 to be a number 1. We've seen it time and time again, and that's why you've seen a lot of teams, go past them. Teams that were already here and came back down there and went like that. It's kind of crazy.
Every sport, Sean, with really good players, when they started as really good players and have high expectations, those players recognize the next level they need to reach. I'll use Bobby Witt Jr. as an example for Kansas City. Bobby Witt Jr. recognized I can reach another level. Kansas City knew he was a really good player, even as a rookie, right? But there's another level he can get to. Now, it's really hard to stay at that level, but you're the guy expected to do it because you're different than other people. You're better than everybody else. So when you see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. or Justin Jefferson, depending on the sport, right? Or Anthony Edwards, those guys are expected to be at a different level because that's how good they are and can be. And that's what Detroit is expecting, I think fairly so, from Mo Sider and Lucas Raymond. Raymond has probably shown it more than Sider.
Yep. I think that's absolutely, I'm on the exact same page. Hey, let me tell you about Lindsay Broadwell. We got a couple minutes left. When it comes time to getting yourself a house, whether you're buying, selling, oftentimes both, you need to contact the right agent. Who do we recommend? Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the main streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business. When it's time to move, our friend Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyer, seller, even first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She will help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Bill, I'm glad you brought that up. I was about to bring that up to Shep. My heart breaks for Jaden Ivey. My heart breaks for the Detroit Pistons because you know what, Shep, and I wasn't writing any checks. I wasn't even guaranteeing that they were going to be in the playoff. But all of a sudden, for the first time in a long time, there was excitement. And maybe there was some hope too, along those lines. To see an injury like that to a kid that's worked its tail off, to a team that all of a sudden is starting to build a little good faith, my heart broke for that poor kid last night.
I agree. And you could tell the amount of pain he was in and how it affected other players too. I mean, when you have grown men out there seeing that, crying tearing up a little bit, shaking their head, knowing full well how important not just is he is to the team, but how much strides he's made. I mean, you talk about a young guy getting better under a developmental coach like JB Bickerstaff. I think Jaden Ivey's a good example of a guy who can do that. Now, how much will it affect him? I really don't know. I think eventually it's going, and I think Cade Cunningham's been phenomenal this year.
Unbelievable.
Phenomenal. But it's going to require more consistency from Tobias Harris, who went 7 for 9 last night, Tim Hardaway, and you'll have a few other guys who will get the opportunity. Marcus Sasser's a really good example of wanting to get a few more minutes. But overall, you feel terrible for the kid because he's worked so hard to get better at so many different parts of his game.
Question was asked, who wins the Sugar Bowl tonight? Who do you like, Shep?
Yeah, I hate the situation that they're playing at 4:00 instead of last night for obvious reasons. You know, I have to measure something here. Kirby Smart has been there. I think there's something to be said for coaches who have prepared their teams for these types of moments before. On the other hand, I do look at the teams that had the bye and how bad they were, right? Oregon was not good and they had a bye. Okay. So there are certain teams that they had the free pass, if you will, and it took them a while to get going. Arizona State's another good example. I think Notre Dame's better than people give them credit for. Georgia's got the backup quarterback, but man, the way Georgia plays and the way Kirby Smart prepares, I got to give the edge to Georgia. But I think it's going to be a really good game.
I think this is going to be a great game. I'm so glad you brought up. I think Notre Dame's a hell of a lot better than people expect.
Yeah, all they're doing is looking at the Northern Illinois game. Right?
And here's the funny thing about that, Shep. I'm glad you brought that up because you know what? That may have been the best thing that could have happened to them. Before that was a kiss of death, and you don't earn yourself a playoff spot. Your season's done early in the year, right? How many times did we see it when we were kids? Boy, if I had a nickel, the amount of times somebody said, man, Bobby Bowden and Florida State have the best team in college football. I'd want nothing to do with them right now.
That's right.
Gosh darn it. They freaking lost every big game they ever had against Miami earlier in the year.
Right.
I mean, that bit went on for years. It drove me out of my mind. And, Bobby Bowden should have 57 national championships because of it, dang nabbit. But now in this scenario, you can absorb a loss like that. Now, you can't lose many more, as you well know, but you can absorb a loss like that, be the better for it, and go on some kind of a run. And you and I are both old MAC guys in the regard that we were fortunate to do some broadcasts. It's not exactly a shock anymore when MAC teams knock off teams anymore, man. You saw it. I saw it. I went into Penn State and beat the crap out of Joe Paterno and Penn State when I was with Toledo. It's not exactly a shock anymore, man.
It's not shocking for the really good MAC teams. Northern Illinois was not a really good MAC team.
No, good
Toledo
call.
Toledo in the past has been really good. We've seen some other MAC schools go in when they're playing really good MAC football. So that stuff doesn't surprise me. When a team struggles the way Northern Illinois did this year, that did surprise me.
Right.
And obviously the next week, they were upset by Buffalo, and you can't let that happen if you're Northern Illinois. You're right. If they lose. If that game is scheduled when Army was scheduled or Navy was scheduled on the Notre Dame schedule and they lose, they're not in this conversation. Mm-hmm. But I do believe Marcus Freeman deserves a lot of credit. He has held his team together when a loss like that might wreck a program. I mean, you heard everybody and their brother coming out of the woodwork and how he's got to get fired and this is unacceptable for Notre Dame and all this other stuff, right? Similar to what they're doing with Alabama. And then you look at Georgia, though, and I'm thinking, man, they lose to Alabama, who turns out to be not a great Alabama team. I still think they're good, but they're not a great Alabama team. They lose to Ole Miss, right? So who's to say who's got the correct loss or the loss that you can actually understand, right? It's happened throughout. Who would have thought Oregon would get their doors blown off by Ohio State? Ohio State's the best team left in this field right now. You and I both know that.
Oh, agreed.
But I think this is going to be a really fun game to watch. I agree with you.
Can we finally put the Gentry for Heisman debate to bed? Listen, that kid at Colorado had a historic year. Okay. That's a year, Shep, we might not see again. Okay.
Right.
And
not great last game, but
no,
yeah.
I'm not taking anything away from him. Okay.
No.
But
Right.
you know what? I might see another 25 running backs like that in my life. What we saw to Travis Hunter, Shep, we're not going to see that again. We're not, seriously, I can't imagine seeing that again. It's changed so dramatically. College football's changed so dramatically. I just don't see that. All right, let's talk about All About Catering before we get out of here. All About Catering LLC is a full-service caterer, graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events, anything you need catering for, from 25 to 4,000 people. All About Catering can and will take care of you. Customer service and satisfaction is their number one goal. So don't sweat your next big event. Just go to allaboutcateringllc.com today to see their menus and all their 5-star reviews. Give them a jingle, 586-731-1398 to get your event started. Shep, I'm heading out to go see that Bob Dylan movie today.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah. Well, don't listen. Don't tell the kids, because it's not like they watch this. This is a perfect opportunity to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I get some good quality family time in. I'll be out like a light 3 minutes into the movie. I can catch up on some sleep. Are you kidding me? Dad, what'd you think? Oh,
it's going to cost you. It'll cost you about $70. It'll cost you about $70.
I'll take it. Listen, I'll pay $70 for a good nap.
As long as you're home by 4, that's all that matters, Sean.
That's exactly what we're doing. That's why we got to run out of here. So, Shep, see you again. Let's talk again on Monday. Todd, thank you. Thank all you guys as well. God bless you. Happy New Year. Bye.
Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Still Alive by Anti-Ghost. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.